conflict, including World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Latin America, the Middle East, and most recently in Pakistan. This year's air show celebrates the 100th anniversary of United States Naval Aviation. Charlie, we got a bunch of Navy airplanes out here. Why don't you tell the crowd what they're looking at out there on the flight line?
Well, I think all the way on the end there, the first fighter is an F-3F, which is a Grumman Navy fighter, a biplane fighter that they used in the late 30s and even in the early 40s.
And next to it we have the J-2F Duck, which was the amphibian, the air, sea rescue and observation aircraft. That's a beautiful airplane. You seen that thing up close?
Yeah.
Restoration is probably better than they were in the day.
It's nice seeing these old pre-war Navy colors on the planes too. The silver fuselage and orange-yellow wings for visibility in case the plane went down. And next to the Duck we have several F-8Fs, Bearcats. And this was a plane that we brought out at the end of the war. It was Grumman's answer to the FW-190, the Focke-Wulf. And they were so impressed with it, they wanted to make an American version of it, and they came out with the Bearcat, which is about the smallest airframe you can design around that engine.
Yeah, the Bearcat really was a hot rod. There was two airplanes you're going to see here today that did not actually fight in World War II. They're a little late for it. One is the F-8F Bearcat that Charlie just mentioned. Also, if you look over to the east side of the ramp area, there's a couple aircraft with twin engines with their wings folded up. Those are the Grumman F-7F Tiger Cat, and that airplane first flew in very late 1943. However, they were so busy building the Hellcat, the F-6F, that they didn't really have time to develop that, and by the time that aircraft was ready to go, they had a few of them on ships steaming towards Japan when the surrender was signed. So the aircraft almost made it into World War II. It did see use with the United States Marine Corps as a night fighter in Korea. And of course the F-8F Bearcats later were used by the French in Indochina, also later used by the South Vietnamese. Some of those aircraft were taken over when the French had left during that conflict. Yeah, Charlie, we also got a couple of the bent-wing birds out here, the Corsair.
That's correct. We have several versions of the Corsair too. Now I believe that the museum's Corsair was actually originally a birdcage Corsair. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, I heard that airplane was original F4U1 spec, and that airplane originally was fitted with a birdcage canopy. Of course, most of the airplanes were later retrofitted with the newer style bubble canopy if they weren't built that way in production. It was a better pilot, more friendly, user-friendly for the pilot. Also, the early Corsairs had a lower rear landing gear tail wheel strut, which made the aircraft a little bit more high angle of attack on takeoff and landing. They also brought that up a little bit to help the pilot's visibility. You know, when the Corsair was first designed, first flown in 1940, the pilot sat about 2.5 to 3 feet further forward, closer to the nose, kind of like a Hellcat. However, the need to add another fuel tank behind the engine put the pilot's position back further, and that aircraft suffered from a little bit difficulty in carrier qualifications because of that pilot's position. You know, the Corsair first flew in 1940, but didn't actually get carrier qualified until mid to late 1944, only after the British had taught us some things, the Fleet Air Arm has taught us some things about handling the aircraft on the carrier. And they said, well, we can tool up for aircraft production. So hence they became an aircraft division of General Motors. They set up production in Trenton, New Jersey for the Avenger, and in Linden, New Jersey for the Wildcat, the F4F Wildcat, which became the FM1 and FM2. And also they built greater numbers of those than Grumman did as well. But yeah.
still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of
Nicely done.
I'll tell you the secret. He started flying when he was 6. He still acts like he's 6. That's the trick. And he loves cookies and milk before he goes to sleep. It's, you know, like he's 6 years old. Okay, if you didn't understand that, he said you can count the turns. He hopes to get 3 turns. Yesterday in practice here, he got 3 turns. It's a little cooler yesterday now. So count the turns. I can't quite right now because I'm under 10. So I'll let you do the counting. Here you go. 1, 2. And 3. That's just so turn. And when Bob lands, you know, he'll have to drink something and shout out a cookie or something. I have Bob water, so it's like to be sweet. Because you burn a lot of energy after this. And he can sign autograph cards. We have tattoos to hand out. So no matter whether you're 4 years old or 3 years old or 69 years old, come on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, millions of dollars and